If you click on the link in the notes below this video, you'll find the text of all the verses that I've covered so far. The text is from the final chapter of the Lankavatara Sutra. It's a summary in verse, known as the Sagatakam. But the list that you'll see if you click that link is not how it's presented in the actual book, because many of the verses in the summary are just taken directly from the main body of the text. And in this case, Professor Suzuki doesn't repeat the text, he just gives a reference. So this verse is the same as the verse in chapter 3, verse 42 or whatever. So what I've done is I've reconstituted it, and rather than put a reference to the verse, replicated the verse itself. And this has been okay, but now we've got a problem, because verse 581, which I covered in the previous video, up to verse 613 are taken directly from the text. That's the next 32 verses. But Professor Suzuki indicates that they're taken from chapter 3, verses 86 to 117. But that's only 31 verses. So there's a problem here. Anyway, I'm just pointing this out because there might be some discrepancy in the numbering, in the Sanskrit numbering. And what I've done is I've just missed out verse 613 because there isn't anything which correlates to that. Anyway, let's not worry about that. I'm just pointing it out in case you're actually checking the original Sanskrit and you're wondering about the numbering. Otherwise, let's just forget all that and get on with it. We've been having some philosophical discussion. Not very successful philosophical discussion in an attempt to prove the philosophical validity of the Buddha's vision, the Buddha's insight. The suggestions given in the text of the philosophical validity of the Buddha's insight are quite feeble, to the point of being really erroneous, wrong. I tried to give my own take on it, but really this isn't a philosophical argument, it's about seeing it for yourself, seeing the truth of the Buddha's insight for yourself. And this is what we do in enlightenment practice. In verse 581, the Buddha said that he teaches the doctrine of no cause. Because our fundamental assumption is that at one point the world came into being, and perhaps there were initial conditions, perhaps not, whatever, the world came into being, and then certain conditions have led to other conditions. The condition of the moon is because of past events. The condition of earth, the condition of the earth is because of past events. The condition of life arising on the earth is because of prior conditions which gave rise to life, and so on. That's the conventional understanding, and we can go along with it for conventional purposes. But in terms of enlightenment practice, we need to step back from that altogether and stop thinking in terms of cause. And we need to start regarding the world as of the nature of a dream, because this is how it actually is. I'm not going to argue the point. I invite you to look into this for yourself and to realize this for yourself. It's not that I refuse to argue the point. I've argued the point on previous occasions. But right now, rather than argue the point, we're at the stage where we want to be established in this understanding. And the next few verses, the the next run of verses are about this. So verse 582 says, "This all is unborn, but that does not mean that there are no objects. They are seen to be like the city of the Gandharvas, a dream and Maya. Objects are here, but causeless." So all of this is unborn. In other words, it didn't come from anywhere. It simply is. I remember when I first started exploring spiritual matters as a spiritual seeker, I remember reading that this is all illusion. It doesn't really exist. Well, in a sense that's true, but in a sense it's also wrong, because there's clearly something going on. We can't deny this. We can't deny that there's a variety of stuff going on. So this is what this verse is saying. Because all of this is unborn, it doesn't mean that there are no objects. They seem to be like the city of the Gandharvas. These are the cities of the celestial musicians, which we can understand in terms of castles in the air. Or a dream, Maya. Maya is this great force of delusion which is actually the power of consciousness. Consciousness gives reality to whatever it's aware of. Whatever we're aware of, we take as reality. We might subsequently take that reality back and say, it was only a dream. It was only a movie I was watching. But when we're aware of something and when our attention is engaged with something, that becomes real. It doesn't matter whether it's a cartoon on the television, or we're in the movie theatre, or listening to somebody's story, or having a dream, or we're hypnotized. Whatever consciousness is conscious of, that becomes reality. This is the power of Maya. Objects are here, but causeless. The mountain in the dream did not arise because of geological forces. That's the story we might have in the dream. It arose instantaneously. So this is what we need to practice. Practice this realization. And we can practice it at any time. I mentioned recently that I've been reading this book on Buddhist Scriptures, going rather brown on my bookshelf for many years. It's compiled by Edward Conze, many of them translated by him. He's got a rather wonderful section on Zen meditation. And on page 134, he tells us that the sixth patriarch, this is the sixth Zen patriarch, which I think was Huineng, defining the word Zazen, says, Zazen is the meditation technique often associated with Zen. You often have visions of monks sitting staring at a wall, getting beaten over the back with a piece of bamboo or something. But this is the definition of the word Zazen given by the sixth patriarch of Zen Buddhism. Outwardly to be in the world of good and evil, yet with no thought arising in the heart, this is sitting. Sitting with a capital S, this is Za. Inwardly to see one's own nature and not move from it, this is meditation. Meditation with a capital M, and this is Zen. So this is Zazen. Outwardly to be in the world of good and evil, yet with no thought arising in the heart. So the point is, this sitting is actually engaging with everyday life, but with no thought arising in the heart. This is quite a beautiful phrase. What it means is, we've got this wonderful conjunction or juxtaposition of thinking and heart. What this means is not getting caught up in our moods, because our moods are this combination of thoughts and feelings. They fuel each other. Our thoughts fuel our feelings, and our feelings fuel our thoughts. So this is what we step back from in enlightenment practice. In enlightenment practice, we're engaging with everyday activity, yet with no thought arising in the heart. This is sitting. This is our posture, our demeanour with respect to the world. Inwardly to see one's own nature and not move from it. And this is the realization of awakening from the dream reality that constitutes the physical world, and of this individual that's experiencing that physical world. So this is a very powerful definition of Zazen. And it's not easy. It's not easy. We can get into a nice little space when we're doing our meditation, our formal meditation practice, concentrating on our breathing or developing loving kindness, and we could have some incense burning. But what's important is what happens after we get up from the meditation cushion. There are so many modes that we enter into in terms of the role we have to play in everyday life, in terms of the relationships we have with people, family relationships, friendships, personal relationships, work relationships, and so on. Just walking down the street, can we practice Zazen? This is the arena of spiritual practice. I've mentioned previously that I'm doing this minimum wage night shift job. I'd hoped to have packed it in long ago, but I'm still doing it. There are still challenges. We hear a lot about job satisfaction. What a wonderful thing to have job satisfaction, to enjoy doing the job that you do. But most jobs, especially menial jobs, are just not constructed to provide job satisfaction. You might be working on a production line. You know, there's nothing satisfying about most jobs. So we can't expect job satisfaction. So this is a great opportunity to practice Zazen. In my job, there are a variety of tasks that I have to get on with during the course of the night. And I can't help but notice how much and how often I resent doing them. There's something in my own psychology here. It's not the fault of the job. I blame my mother's DNA, and possibly my father's as well. I've been thinking about this. I normally feel it's my mother's DNA that I have to deal with, but actually there's my father's as well. My father was quite a quiet, unassuming man, but he had great capacity for deep and bitter resentment, whereas my mother was, she just raged. She just had so much rage inside her. So notice I talk about my parents' DNA. I think it's better to talk about DNA than karma, because karma somehow implies there's a personal responsibility for your current situation. and somehow you're to blame for whatever's not right, whatever suffering you're having to put up with. This is nonsense. This is just reinforcing the sense of the individual. I much prefer thinking in terms of DNA. My psychological disposition isn't because of childhood traumas or whatever. It's hardwired in me. It comes from my parents' DNA combined in me. My parents weren't a particularly good match. And in fact, they weren't a good match at all. They were completely incompatible. So I've got two incompatible strands of DNA dictating my psychological disposition. And this is what I have to deal with. And in doing these basic tasks in a menial job, which has got no inherent job satisfaction in it, I've got a great opportunity. What's wrong with just getting on with these tasks? Why resent it? I can think of lots of reasons to resent it, but these are just part of the thoughts arising in the heart. Instead, I've got an opportunity to get on with what needs to be done, with no thought arising in the heart, and to take that opportunity to inwardly see my own nature as pure awareness. This is the most wonderful Zen practice. And it sounds rather wonderful, doesn't it? But the challenge is this inwardly seeing of one's own nature. And this is what we can get in touch with when we're hearing these videos. It comes back into focus. And it can be very nice, tuning into the text also is presented in these videos. And we come back and rest in the realization once again of our own awareness. This is great. But what happens when the video finishes? What happens when we get off our meditation cushion? What happens when we start getting on with our daily routine? What happens when we go out the door, walk down the street, go to the shopping mall, go to work, deal with our friends, interact with our friends and our relatives? What's happened to our practice then? What's happened to our practice then? This is when real meditation with a capital M, can be practiced.